Welcome back, tabletop players. I am so happy to see you all once again. This will be the 9th video in the series and will be titled Battle Phase Part 2, and will cover battle basics and units. This is very important stuff, so pay close attention. All right, just to orient ourselves, we are back at the game phases sheet. And looking at the bottom of the sheet once again, we are at the battle phase. Note that we will be on this phase for at least another video or two. So hang in there, people. Ha! Here we are, at the beginning of the chaotic combat system and its basic rules. Hopefully, we all will learn them by heart. Alright, so, the top part of this page contains the pre-battle basic rules that was covered on the previous video. Unfortunately, I did forget to mention them as pre-battle rules. My apologies. It won't happen again, trust me. Okay, now we start with that first bulleted line, and it says, all units attack and do damage simultaneously, which means that if player 1 has a unit that attacks an enemy and does lethal damage, that other unit still gets to retaliate as well, possibly doing lethal damage in return. Easy rule to remember. Now the second bullet goes over Mortal Kombat. And like it says, when two enemies are engaged in Mortal Kombat, they are not allowed to disengage from each other until one is defeated. Continuing on to a bird's eye view of a man-at-arms versus a goblin warrior, we shall start on the left side first, or round 1. This is basically when both players meet at a relic site, and both units are currently disengaged from each other, so they can't attack unless they have ranged attacks. Now the player that won initiative gets to take an action, which could be to engage his opponent, use an ability, or if they have mana, maybe cast a spell. But for this plot, he decides to engage his opponent. The second player can also take an action and decides to meet him in battle. Now moving to round 2. Here both units are now in Mortal Kombat after engaging in round 1. Both players can now attack each other, and the victor takes control of this relic site. Also note that engaging an opponent takes 1 round. So far doing good, guys. So let's proceed with the third rule, which goes over adjacent units. These units are basically next to an enemy and may attack via melee, or on any round they can engage another enemy unit. Note that engaging takes 1 round, and attacks can't be made unless you have a ranged attack. So far doing good, guys. So let's proceed with the third rule, which goes over adjacent units which are not considered to be in Mortal Kombat. These units are basically next to an enemy and may attack via melee. Also, on any round, they can engage another enemy unit, but can't attack anyone that same round. Here is another quick bird's eye view of a man-at-arms locked in Mortal Kombat with a goblin warrior. But there is another goblin warrior adjacent to both of them, and he is also able to attack the human. This little mini-battle, consisting of 3 or more units, would be called a cluster, and you can have multiple clusters in a battle. Now, if you all can think of a better description than cluster, please feel free to mention it at our Discord or YouTube channel. God knows I need the help. Next 2 bullets are about ranged units, and unlike melee units, they can attack on the first round. They don't need a round to engage, they can just let those arrows fly. But, yes, there is a but. Ranged units can't shoot enemy units locked in Mortal Kombat with ally units. They also can't attack enemy units adjacent to ally units, or basically in a cluster. Also, once an enemy unit engages a ranged unit, they are locked in Mortal Kombat and must use their melee attacks and corresponding damage. Well, that about covers ranged attackers. And we are almost done. Moving on to full clusters. Basically, a full cluster is when you have a unit completely surrounded by 6 other units. Those other units can be either allies or enemies. You can have a full cluster that might also have a second full cluster connected to it. You can also have other clusters that are not connected to the full cluster. It's just a cluster mess. Let me show you a bird's eye view of what I'm talking about. See here, we have two clusters. One is a full cluster, and the other is a 4-unit cluster, but they are not connected in a single cluster containing all 11 units. So every battle can be different in just cluster configurations on the field. I feel like I need to cover clusters on another video to make things clearer. But for now, just take note that you can have multiple clusters or one huge one and everything in between. Finally, we are at the last line on here, and it's an easy one. Simply put, once a battle ends, any unit that survived the fight is magically healed by the relic, and those units will be back at full health starting next turn. Except, for non-regenerative damage, this type of damage will not heal ever. So if a human with 10 max health takes 3 non-regenerative damage, his new max total for the game is 7. But if that damage was normal damage, either physical or magic, then they can heal back up to 10 health at the end of the battle. Well, that about wraps it up for this tutorial, but before we go, just wanted to update everyone on the Kickstarter launch date, which is on April 4th, 2025. Woohoo, we did it! It's been a long journey. Well, thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And if you would like to join the community, please click the link below to join our Discord server.